Finding a percent of a number, you can find two ways. So we can either use the percent equation, which is where you take the percent and you times the total and it equals the part, or you can use a double number line, which is where you have the part over the percent that you're looking for, with the total over 100. And 100 is always written there, because remember, percents are always out of 100. So you always put the 100% down where it belongs. You can also use a proportion, and you can use the is, and the of and the 100. But I prefer these two methods the best way. So let's do a few examples on how to find percents of a number. Okay, so for our first example, we have 20% of 18 is what number? So I'm going to do the first way and use the percent equation. So remember, when we're dealing with percents, we want to transfer them to a decimal or a fraction form. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 20% as a decimal in this example. So 20% is 20 hundredths or 2 tenths. And of is multiplication, so we times. Is of 18 equals what number? So I'm going to put n for unknown. So then all we have to do is 20 hundredths times 18, and we end up getting 3 and 6 tenths is our number. So that's how you use the percent equation. So using the double number lines, this is good for all the ways without solving for an equation. So, and you'll see in the next few videos why I prefer this way more than the equation or the proportion. So I know my 20%, so I go ahead and put 20% down. I know of 18 is my total because 20% of 18, that means I have 18, I want 20% of it. So 18 is my total. And then what number? So then in this case, now my proportion is set up. It's just written as a double number line. And I can multiply 18 times 20 and divide it by 100, and I'll get that 3.6 again. Or I can say to myself, well, 100 is being divided by 5. So 18 is being divided by 5, and 18 divided by 5 is 3 and 6 tenths. So you can do it either way. So if I set it up, I'm going to do n over 20 is 18 out of 100. And I multiply the 18 and the 20 and divide it by 100. And I get that 3 and 6 tenths. Or I know that 100 is being divided by 5 to make 20. So then I take the 18 and divide it by 5, and I get that 3 and 6 tenths. Okay, let's do another problem to see how this works. Here I have 7% of 15 is what number? So if I want to use the percent equation, I would do percent times total equals my part. Well, here's my percent times my total. Okay, so 7% is 0.07, 7 hundredths, or I can write it as a fraction if you want to. If you don't like changing percents to decimals, you're welcome to put it over 100, so you don't have to worry about moving that decimal point. And you multiply it by 15 to give you the number that it is. So if I multiply this equation, 7 hundredths times 15, n ends up being 1 and 5 hundredths. Or in fraction form, it'd be 1 and 5 over 100 equals n. All right? Okay, if I set it up as my proportion, all right, I know 7% goes on the percent line. So 7% is going to be down here. 15 is my total. My total always goes over my 100. All right, and now looking at this case, I don't know how many 7s go into 100 for the division, and I don't know how many 15s go into 100 either, so I can know what's going on going up and down, which is what we've been working on in class. So again, there's my proportion already set. I know I'm going to multiply the 15 times the 7 and divide it by 100. So you can set up your proportion over here on the other side. And we're going to do 15 times 7 and divide it by 100. And we end up getting that 1 and 5 hundredths. Now think about it too. 7% is a really small number. And if I'm doing 7% of 15, and 15 is not generally a large number, 1 and 500ths is a proportional answer, and we know that we got it right. Let's say I got 10.5. All right, 10 and a half. 10 and a half is over here. It's closer to 15. 7% would have to be closer to 100, which it's not. So this is also a good way just to make sure that your math is correct and that your answers make sense. And that is how you find the part of a percent of a number.